This is DD, the Defense Dynamics, and I am Danveer from New Delhi, connecting to our viewers from India and around the world. Today, we will talk about Maldives and China getting closer in the Indian Ocean region, and consequently, India's announcement to enhance the military bases at Minicoy and Kavaratti Islands. On the other side, in Pakistan, their tribal region is on the boil, and so is the case in Bangladesh, which is burning too. So we will analyze all these issues for you and tell you what could be the likely security implications in this part of the globe.
India has been very fortunate. We are blessed with a very good maritime geography.
Pakistan is now struggling its own homegrown terrorist organizations.
He knows very well that he cannot ignore India's security interests.
The government has approved plans to construct 2 military airfields in India's Lakshadweep Islands. One is at Minicoy and another is an expansion plan of the existing one at Agatti. This is especially significant as Chinese naval footprint has seen massive expansion in the Indian Ocean region, and this is likely to grow further. Competitive geopolitics in the Indian Ocean brings China and Pakistan much more closer than ever before. And now, Maldivian President Mohammad Muizzu's pro-China policies adds to the Indian woes. It will be the last thing that Pakistan's naval planners would like to see, and that is India seizing the strategic space in Indian Ocean region as a geopolitical arbitrator. No prizes for the best guess. China is the Pakistan's best bet in all to push back, countering the Indian dominance in the littorals. China-Pakistan naval engagements are getting intense by each passing year. This is all about competitive diplomacy in the Indian Ocean region rather than the Chinese or the Pakistani power projection in India's immediate maritime neighborhood. In this game of chess, Maldives seems to have drifted to the other side. The dynamics appear to have changed on India's western seaboard. On March the 4th, the Maldivian Defense Minister Mohammad Ghassan Mahmood and Deputy Director of the Office for International Military Cooperation of the People's Republic of China, Major General Zhang Baokun, have signed a pact wherein China will offer military assistance to the Republic of Maldives without any charge. Yes, you heard it right. It is for free. They say it is for enhancing the geostrategic bond between the two nations. So understanding it in a broader perspective, it implies that there is going to be a larger bond between China, Pakistan and now the Maldives. Who would be in their crosshairs? You guessed it right, India. Maldivian drift away from India was set up by Muizzu during his political campaign in run-up to recent general elections. His narrative resonated at large and Muizzu won hands down. Soon after assuming office, the first thing the newly elected Maldivian president did was to ask India to pull out its defense personnel involved in operating Indian reconnaissance aircraft and radar stations over there. Prior to this development, India's military presence in Maldives was focused on managing 2 helicopters and a Dornier maritime surveillance aircraft that were gifted to the island nation to conduct search and rescue operations along with surveillance of its exclusive economic zone.
He knows very well that he cannot ignore India's security interests and the security parameters, and therefore, most likely he will try to balance between India and China.
Moses realized that he cannot do anything without Maldives cannot do away the cooperation of India, and that's why in a conciliatory message he requested India to waive off or reschedule the payment of interest of more than $480 million.
Now, amid tensions between India and the Maldives, not so surprisingly, the operationalization of naval base in Minicoy that coincided with the defense agreement between the Maldives and the Chinese in March this year, and the latest being the Government of India's approval to its plan to construct 2 military airfields in Lakshadweep Island. One is at Minicoy and another is at Agatti, which in actual is an expansion of existing one. This is going to be for dual use by both civilian and the military aircrafts. A major strategic development, part of long-term capability enhancement plan, which officials and experts say will shore up India's security by enhanced maritime awareness through these bases located on these islands. Being very close to critical sea lanes of communication, they are of extreme importance.
The commissioning of INS Jatayu is an asset which we should have, which will help us, spread our which will help us in better maritime domain awareness. It will help us secure our own maritime frontiers, and it will reinforce our position as the premier Indian Ocean power. When the PLA Navy, let's say 7 or 8 or 10 years from now, has the capacity and the capability to operate in the Indian Ocean and will be a formidable presence, we would already have a well-established security architecture to counter that move.
INS Jatayu on the island of Minicoy is approximately 125 kilometers away from Thurakanu Island, which is the northernmost island of Maldives. Let me explain this with the help of our video wall. Now I will explain to you the geostrategic importance of Maldives and also try and explain to you why Maldives drifting to China may not be such a big cause of worry to India. To do that, I will be taking help of this video wall, and I will be giving you the geographical overview of that country first to explain what is the geostrategic importance. Now this country is the smallest country in this area. It is just around 300 square kilometers of land. As far as the geostrategic aspect is concerned, we must understand that this country is longitudinally, that is from north to south, dispersed. As you can see in that box, it is 960 kilometers north to south, and it is straddled on a submarine mountain ridge. So what you can see, these islands basically, when you see the map, the islands are basically the tip of those mountain ranges. Now there are two very major important passes or passages on this island chain of islands. One is the 9-degree channel, which is just south of Minicoy Island and in between Maldives. So it is 9-degree channel, and in the middle of the atoll we have 10-degree channel. So there are two passages through which a lot of trade from Strait of Hormuz and Gulf of Aden, they cross over into the South China Sea and into the region of Japan and China through Strait of Malacca. Here we have, this is Strait of Malacca. So that is why this area is very important. Now once it has gravitating towards China, India is definitely at a disadvantage, but not such a great disadvantage, because Kavaratti, which is here, is not very far away from the Maldives passages that I said, 10-degree and the 9-degree passage. So we can, with our better naval assets, surveillance aircrafts, radar stations, we can keep the complete area under surveillance, and maritime information will not stop by Maldives gravitating towards China. Now let me further explain to you the geopolitical and geostrategic importance of Maldives. Now, as you can see, these are the trade routes that are going. So the complete trade of the globe, this is a major highway, that is Indian Ocean is a very major highway.
And if you understand it from that point of view, if Indian Ocean is a major highway, then Maldives stands as a toll collector. So that is the importance of Maldives. Maldives sits right in the middle of Indian Ocean. Now, as the geopolitical competition is increasing because of increase in trade, a lot of merchant shipping going around, there is obviously jostling. This is jostling between the powers, and India is a very major power. Now, China has got an issue with its geography. It is biased onto the complete extreme far east, and unfortunately, fortunately, they have no other option but to use these trade routes. And to use these trade routes, they do not have that logistical backup and support, and they need it desperately. So in that situation, Maldives comes very handy. So for Chinese, Maldives is extremely important in that way. And for us also it is very important, because in the time of conflict, these are the choke points what we can squeeze and put Chinese under a lot of pressure. The proximity of Minicoy, which is also just few hundred miles from the Maldives, makes INS Jatayu a strategic naval base on India's western seaboard. Further consolidating and capacity enhancement, developing Minicoy and Agatti with an airstrip capable of handling fighters, large transport aircrafts, and also construction of jetties to berth warships will enhance the overall operational capability of the Indian Air Force and also the Indian Navy in the extended region of Indian Ocean.
We are looking at having the infrastructure, operational infrastructure, as well as administrative infrastructure improved. Capability will be enhanced. There will be more units based here. The radar surveillance capability, the ability to provide maritime domain awareness, all that will increase substantially.
The bases in Lakshadweep, INS Jatayu at Minicoy and INS Dweep Rakshak in Kavaratti will enhance operational reach and facilitate the Indian Navy's operational efforts towards extending operational surveillance, reach and sustenance. It will usher a new era of capacity building and comprehensive development of island territories. They will also serve as platforms for anti-piracy and anti-narcotics operations in the Arabian Sea.
As our footprint expands, as the Indian Navy expands its footprint in the Indian Ocean, and there will be definitely a Chinese footprint also expanding in the Indian Ocean as the Chinese PLA Navy keeps building up its capability, it is important for us to ensure that the security of the Indian Ocean, as far as our maritime interests are concerned, is never compromised.
More so, with enhanced defense cooperation between the Chinese and the Maldives on one side and ever-increasing collaboration between the Chinese and the Pakistani navies, these bases will help India address the serious concerns to India's security more effectively. Pakistan and the Chinese Navy regularly perform naval drills in the Indian Ocean. With the Sea Guardian exercises, now an annual feature starting January 2020 in the Northern Arabian Sea, followed by the second in July 2022 in the East China Sea, and the latest one being last year in November 2023. With this strategic challenge posed by these three countries, India has planned for surveillance radars, jetties, airfields and stationing of anti-ship BrahMos supersonic cruise missiles of the Indian Navy at these bases in Lakshadweep Island.
We will take a positive, proactive and affirmative action to ensure that the region is safe and secure.
The latest announcement of upgrades is part of a long-term capability development plan to shore up India's security footprint in the islands located very close to the critical sea lanes of communications. It is learned that these bases will expand over a period of time into larger bases capable of operating large ships as large as the aircraft carriers. The Indian Navy's move is buoyed by increasing Chinese presence in this region. The naval detachment at Minicoy was however set up as early as 1980s under the operational command of Naval Officer in Charge Lakshadweep. However, now with the increasing challenge from the Chinese Navy, it is being developed as India's strategic tri-services base. The Indian Ocean region is witnessing an upsurge in maritime terror, crime and piracy along with the geopolitical realignments. Thus, there is a pressing need for heightened surveillance amidst the prevailing geopolitical developments. This underscores the strategic significance of Lakshadweep to India.
And India, as a preeminent Indian Ocean maritime power, has always taken this responsibility very seriously. That today we consider ourselves the preferred security partner in the Indian Ocean. We consider ourselves the first responder in the Indian Ocean. So the wider our surveillance capability, the better will be our maritime domain awareness.
Because of the strategic location, specifically Minicoy, it is a place for gathering information on shipping movement. New Delhi definitely does not want a repeat of Coco Island-like situation in the West. The relations with Maldives not at its best, India would need to have a front where it can stop its adversaries and keep things under check. If one looks at the east, India has Andaman Nicobar Islands, and just close to these Indian islands is a small island called Coco Island, part of Myanmar. This island is just 10 to 15 kilometers away from the Indian territory. This island has a Chinese presence that includes its radar stations. Therefore, to prevent all that happening on the western seaboard, India has Minicoy Naval Base, and this is a very vital asset to India in the Arabian Sea.
We have a number of air stations in the Andaman Nicobar Islands. There's Jiglipur, there's Campbell Bay, there's Great Nicobar, there's Car Nicobar, there's Port Blair itself. Now we are looking at developing Minicoy Island as a major maritime hub.
So that is the strategic importance of Lakshadweep Islands, especially Minicoy. Now moving on to our next story, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Banu in Pakistan.
Thousands of people had rallied on 19th of July to protest against a planned operation by Pakistan military to root out militants along the Afghan border. Instead, one protester was killed and many injured when the state troops opened indiscriminate gunfire on peaceful protesters. Azad Saeed is a senior Pakistani journalist, and he had written on X that Pakistan is not heading towards a constitutional meltdown, rather heading towards a state meltdown. State has melted in the north, from where the plague is moving fast to other parts. Question: are we understanding this? Answer is no. This social media post of Azad Saeed comes in a backdrop of what has happened in Banu of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa.
The problem of that border area is earlier Pakistan thought that it will get the entire credit for kicking USA out of Afghanistan and taking the role of promoter or mentor for Taliban, but Taliban refused to toe the line, and now it is problem between Pakistan and Taliban, especially when Afghans who had taken refuge, they were ordered to go out, to go back.
More than 10,000 people waving white flags and calling for peace had gathered for a rally in Banu, which is 40 kilometers from Pakistan-Afghanistan border. It is the same place where a suicide bomber a few days back had rammed an explosive-packed vehicle into an army enclave. killing 8 Pakistani troops. The Pakistan's government had announced recently that their military would be launching a new campaign under Operation Azm-e-Istikam to counter the violence in the areas along the border with Afghanistan. This violence has surged following the Taliban government's return to power. In short, Pakistan is getting destabilized by each passing day. The Pakistani establishment, unable to address sub-regional concerns, is making the situation trickier. And this is what the Pakistani journalist Azaz Saeed has hinted.
I think basically Pakistan, from 2 points of view. One, the upsurge of militancy within Pakistan itself. And there are sufficient indicators that the terrorism is actually rising in Pakistan, and it's basically the chicken is coming back home to roost really.
To India's east, things are not hunky-dory either. Bangladesh is burning.
In Bangladesh, days of violence have been sparked by students' call for the government to axe a rule reserving scores of public jobs for the families of veterans of country's independence war in 1971. Authorities in Bangladesh have imposed a nationwide curfew after rioting in capital Dhaka that left scores of people dead. The Prime Minister's office announced the curfew after an attack on the Narsingdi prison that saw hundreds of inmates released. The army would be deployed to the streets in a bid to restore order. A large number of people have died since the violence broke out. Complete shutdown in communications with mobile, internet and telephone lines down. The bus and train services are also halted, and schools and universities across Bangladesh have been shut down till further orders. This has done little to stop the protesters, who vow to continue with their own complete shutdown, which has seen them blockade roads across the city. The students are arguing that the quota system is discriminatory and are asking for recruitment based on merit. The critics say the system unfairly benefits the families of pro-government groups who support Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, who won her 4th straight election in January this year. This unrest may not truly be a students' unrest, since there are strong political and Islamic undercurrents. Bangladesh top court reduced the quota for government jobs on Sunday, partially satisfying student protests amidst unrest. The government partially restored telecommunication services on Wednesday, though social media remained suspended after deadly protests. Calm only returned after Supreme Court lowered the quotas to 7%, overturning a High Court decision that reinstated a 56% quota from 2018 verdict.
As a challenge to Sheikh Hasina, if she goes, then we will have more difficult people to deal with. And my sense is that we need to see what kind of a leadership is best for India, so that we can talk to them, we can protect our interests. We cannot always get 100%. Please understand that. But who will protect Indian interests? And I think Sheikh Hasina is a very good one.
Whether it is change of political narrative in Maldives and attempts thereon to alter geopolitical dynamics, to internal instability in Pakistan and Bangladesh, all these developments in India's neighborhood have serious implications on overall regional security dynamics. With this, we come to the end of this episode, but before we go, here is my take. Maldives, historically close to India, has experienced shifts in political leadership and narrative. Gravitating towards China, this can impact India's interest due to its proximity and strategic significance in the Indian Ocean region. In the long run, this may affect maritime security cooperation, economic ties, geopolitical alignment, and also in the region, the other side Pakistan and Bangladesh, both neighboring countries of India, are experiencing internal instability. This instability can manifest in political, social, economic, and security-related challenges. Instability in these countries can lead to issues such as cross-border terrorism, refugee flows, or disruption in trade, diplomatic relations, thus directly affecting India's security and stability. In other words, the political changes, geopolitical maneuvers, and internal instability in India's neighboring countries can impact India's security environment. Therefore, understanding and responding to these dynamics are crucial for India to maintain its national security and strategic interests in the region. See you next week with new stories and their analysis. Thanks for watching, and do post your comments on social media with hashtag DD with Danveer. Goodbye and take care.